If everyone could take their seats, please. The chair would like to call to order tonight's regular meeting of the Board of Education, CUSD 201, November 15, 2016. And roll call, please.
Ms. Ambrose.
Here.
Mr. Armstrong.
Here.
Mrs. Charlton.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mrs. Knopbush. Mr. Price.
Here.
Ms. Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda, approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the October 25th, 2016 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I abstain.
I abstain.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Oh, yes. Thank you. Since Mara Knopbush is not here, I would like to have a motion to name Gary Armstrong as the secretary for tonight's board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Gary, great responsibility.
Right.
Okay, thank you for that. I had a note right here. Okay, public comment. Are there any public comments? All right, let's go right to celebrate success from the WTA, please.
Hello, I am Karen Niemeyer, instructional coach at Manning, and this is Carrie Bauerlein. She is one of the reading interventionists at Manning. We just wanted to showcase a few of the many wonderful things happening at Manning, and one of those is the ELL program, and in particular, the ELL teacher, who is Miss Ashley Ritter. And she is amazing. I get the opportunity as an instructional coach to work with all these teachers, and where before when I was a teacher, just in a specific grade level, I never got the opportunity to really get to meet and know how everyone is working with their students. Miss Ritter does an amazing job. She is a teacher that puts her whole effort and enthusiasm in what she's teaching. I can even hear her walking where my room is in the stairwell. I get to hear her walking upstairs with her students and even walking downstairs, and she's constantly teaching, whether the students probably don't know that, but she is constantly teaching and working with them. She really just puts all her enthusiasm into what she's doing. One of the things that she did was she took her students, her ELL students, on a field trip. So she wants to make all her learning authentic, and she does a lot of that with hands-on and minds-on. She's always trying to look for something new and unique for her students. So one of the things she did was take her students on a library trip, and we have a little, well, no, don't go there. We have a little slideshow to show you. And hopefully the sound is on. Sorry, that music. She would have been here today, but she's actually at a class, and she'd probably be completely embarrassed by everything I'm saying about her, but I'm being completely sincere. If you ever got the opportunity to go into her classroom, she would welcome it. You would think you're having all these budding scientists. There's so much going on in her room, and it's a real joy to work with her. So on to the second part.
It's very hard to follow Miss Ritter. If you have ever been to Manning School during the chick unit, she is the person to talk about. I've learned way more about hatching eggs and chicks than I ever need to in my entire life, but she does such a fabulous job. The next thing that I want to share with you this evening is a little bit about the entire week that Manning School participated in and put together for Veterans Day. And so I also have a quick little video to share with you. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So this is our second year of events, and though while we've done previous activities for Veterans Day, as a school we wanted to do more to connect and bring in the community, and I think that this entire week really highlights the amazing Manning community, the staff, the students, and the families. So one thing that we always do is we have developed a family wall, so each year families can submit a scrapbook page that highlights a veteran in their family, and we display that during the week on a wall, and it's growing and it's getting longer. I'm sure eventually we'll have to wrap around the school. And then during the rest of the year, we put that in a scrapbook outside the office so all of our visitors can see that. Students also decorated doors in honor of each branch of the military, and our buddy grade levels, which is a wonderful mentoring partnership we've established, and we've used it for lots of other school activities. They came together to read books and create other welcome materials for our veterans. And then on Veterans Day, we invited Manning families and their veterans in for a special breakfast hosted by the staff, which was then followed by a school-wide assembly that students put on that included poetry readings, other readings, and songs sung by staff and students. And then following the assembly, one of the coolest things that we have is all of our veterans visit the classrooms and speak to the classes, and they bring in materials for them to see, and it's something that the students really enjoy. And actually, our veterans tend to visit multiple classrooms. They spend half the day there, and before they know it, it's lunchtime, and so they have to go. And then one thing that we did this year, which is new, is we hosted a fundraiser called Pennies for Patriots. And if anyone has an elementary student at Manning, you were searching everywhere for your change this week, and we thank you for that. All proceeds from this fundraiser goes to Honor Flight Chicago, and Honor Flight is a non-for-profit organization with a mission to thank and pay tribute to our veteran heroes, especially World War II and Korean veterans, by bringing them to Washington, D.C. for a day of honor and remembrance at no cost to them. And so the cost of one veteran's trip is about $1,000. So our goal was to try to raise through Pennies for Patriots, which is like a penny war, where pennies count as positive points to your grade level, and other coins or currency count towards negative points towards another grade level. So the goal is to get your grade level to win. And this is actually something that's very near and dear to my heart, as my grandfather was lucky enough to experience the generosity of people and organizations like Manning School by going on an honor flight this fall. And when I shared with him that our school was going to do this fundraiser, he actually began to cry, which was so surprising to me. He was just so happy and thankful that another veteran would get to have a life-changing experience like he did. And so our goal was to raise $1,000, and in 1 week we were able to raise about $1,500 so we can sponsor about 1.5 veterans. And so all our donations will go directly to Honor Flight Chicago. So I know the students were really proud of themselves, and that's something they should be very proud of too. And we're also going to ask the organization to share the name of a local veteran that our funds probably went towards helping, and so that we can invite them to our Veterans Day celebration next year and honor them as well. So it's been an event that continues to grow with the Manning family, and every year we have something new and wonderful, and it just showcases, I think, everyone at Manning and the hard work that they put in. Thank you very much for all of your time. Did you have anything else? No. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Way to go to the kids for doing that. That was very nice. Very nice. Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to the consent agenda. Are there any comments or questions? right, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Personnel recommendations. Employment of support staff, David Gudalis, for part-time temporary custodian district-wide. James Johnson, full-time maintenance custodian, Westmont High School. Howard Ing, full-time substitute custodian district-wide. Scott Russo, full-time director of grounds district-wide. Stipend position, Sandra DeCrane, sophomore girls basketball coach, Westmont High School. 2, policies on second reading. 3, approval of payroll deductions. 4, approval of November 2016 expenditure report. And 5, ratification of October 2016 regular payroll.
So moved.
Second?
And roll call, please.
Ms. Ambrose.
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to discussion. Presentation of fiscal year 2016 audit.
Right. Tonight, we have Susan Jones and Elizabeth Gasparini from Miller Cooper, our auditors, here to present the audit.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Susan Jones. I'm the audit partner on the engagement this past year. You should have 2 deliverables at your seat. One is the final 2016 audited financial statements in full CAFR, and the other is our required communications letter. I'm going to start going through some of the highlights in the financial statements. Turning past the second tab in the book, the financial section tab, is our audit opinion. Our audit opinion, consistent with prior years, is what's called or referred to as an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance the district can receive. The audit opinion goes on for 4 pages. And past the audit opinion on page 5 is management's discussion and analysis. This is prepared by management, and it's really a high-level overview of all the significant highlights of the financial aspects that are in the audited financial statements. The statements are over about 100 pages, so this is a nice summary if you wanted to do a quicker read. Past management's discussion and analysis, though, on page 18, really begins the basic financial statements. It's the statement of net position. This is presented on what's referred to as a full accrual basis, so all the long-term assets, all the long-term liabilities of the district are included here. I wanted to point out a couple highlights and significant changes from the same statement compared to the prior year. So total assets are $61.9 million at the end of 2016. At the end of 2015, they were about $51.2 million. During 2016, the district issued about $9.7 million of bonds, so related to construction projects. And a lot of the construction happened over the summer past the June 30th, 2016 fiscal year end. So cash and investments in total assets is up about $8 million because that cash from the bond issuance is sitting in the fund statements. So last year, cash at this time was roughly around $20 million. At the end of 2016, it's about $28.8 million. Moving down to the liability side, liabilities at the end of 2016 was about $22.8 million. Again, that is up from the end of 2015 which was $12.2 million. So consistent with the increase in assets with the cash on hands, there's an increase in liabilities now related to that new debt that was issued during 2016. Deferred inflows, which consist of deferred inflows related to pensions and property taxes, were consistent year over year at about $11 million. So at the end of 2016, total net position was $29.2 million, which was an increase of about $375,000 from the prior year. Turn to page 19 is the statement of activities, which includes all the revenues and expenditures of the district. Overall, you can see the change in net position was at $375,000. Year over year, both total revenues and total expenses increased a little bit over $1 million. And majority of expenses, as you can tell from the statement, are spent on support services and instruction. Turning to page 20 and 21, these are the statements that you may be more familiar with and see on a more regular basis. These are the fund financial statements, so it lists out each of the major funds of the district. On a combined basis, total fund balance was about $26 million at the end of 2016. Each of the funds are in a positive fund balance position except the Capital Projects Fund, which is on page 21. That's in a deficit fund balance position of $1 million, and that's really related to timing. As part of our financial reporting and putting these financial statements together, we had to book an accrual, and you can see it, accounts payable, about $1.3 million related to expenses incurred that have not been paid, and majority of that relates to the construction bills and things like that that were going on at the end of June 2016. Turning to page 22, this is just a reconciliation of the full accrual net position versus the fund balance on a combined basis, and the majority of the reconciling items relate to capital assets and long-term debt. On page 23 and 24, this is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And again, this lists out each of the major funds of the district. And this really shows all the revenues earned during 2006 offset by the expenditures. You can see that all the major funds had an increase in fund balance, except the O&M fund had a decrease of $112,000. So that's kind of eating into revenues were less than expenditures for the year 2016, and management is monitoring, the deficit spending going on in that fund. And again, in capital projects, that had expenditures greater than revenues of about $1 million. And next year, during fiscal year 17, some of that cash that's in the working cash fund related to the bonds is going to be transferred to kind of cover some of those expenditures related to the capital projects that are going on in the district. But overall, on a combined basis, there was an increase in fund balance of $7.5 million.
Susan, but that increase, the majority of that is for working cash. So we want to make sure people don't think that we added almost $8 million to fund balance. And then in that general account, you have the educational account, the tort, and the working cash. So on page 101, you actually see the changes in fund balance for those. So the ed fund had a negative $303,000 change in fund balance. Tort was a positive $12,000, and then working cash was positive $8.3 million, and that's how we arrive at the $8 million there. So I just want to make sure people don't think that our fund balance increased by $9 million or $8 million because that is earmarked for capital projects.
And on page 99, you can see all that excess cash in the working cash account of, the $9.9 million related to the bond proceeds. Flipping back to page 26 is the statement of fiduciary net position, and it includes the agency fund, which includes the student activities and the convenience fund, as well as the private purpose trust fund for scholarships. And on page 27 is just some small interest earnings off some of that cash that was in the private purpose trust fund. On page 28 begins the notes to the financial statements, and the notes go on from pages 28 through 68. And the notes really provide a lot more information, narrative related to each of the significant financial statement items. There were really no significant accounting policies or changes that were adopted by the district during fiscal year 2016, except GASB 72 related to fair value, and it just tweaked minorly some of the disclosures. Turning to page 69 is the required supplemental information. It's required to be placed alongside the financial statements. And it's just additional information related to the pension liabilities related to TRS, IMRF, and other post-employment benefits. And then beyond that information, if you wanted to do a deeper dive of all the major funds of the revenues and expenditures, on page 74, for example, the general fund, there's a lot more information, more detailed information on where the revenues are being generated from, where the expenditures are incurring, and it shows a comparison between the budget, the actual, as well as prior year information. We covered basically pages 99, 101 with regard to the breakout of the general fund, which includes the educational account, the tort account, and the working cash account. And then the last section of the CAFR is the statistical section, which is just a lot of demographic and trend information of the district over a series of years. So that's just some additional information and statistics. Does anybody have any questions on the financial statements? The last item I want to go briefly over is our required communications letter. That's this letter right here. Our audit was performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. And as part of our audit, as we execute our procedures, we do consider the district's internal controls, and we didn't identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls. If the financial statements were to be included in another document, like a bond document, we would have to review that document to ensure there's nothing inconsistent with our audit opinion and that document. Turning to page 2, the timing and execution of our audit was consistent with what we planned out to do in our engagement letter. Our firm and the engagement team are independent of the district. All significant accounting policies have been disclosed in the footnotes to the financial statements. On pages 2 and 3 lists out a series of GASB statements that were adopted by the district during the current year. None of them had a significant impact to these financial statements. And then on page 4 lists out a series of GASB statements that will impact the district in future years. The only significant one on page 3 is GASB 74, and consistent with GASB 68, where the unfunded pension liabilities of TRS and IMRF were placed on the statement of net position. In a couple years, the OPEB liabilities, which is about $1 million, will also be placed on the district statement of net position. Turning to page 5, as part of our audit procedures, we do review the methodologies and all the significant estimates impacting the financial statements. The most sensitive accounting estimates relate to all these assumptions related to the pension liabilities and post-employment benefits, as well as the self-insurance. If there were any differences that we identified during our audit that were not recorded, we would have to disclose that to you, and there were none, and we had no significant audit adjustments. That concludes our formal presentation, if anybody has any questions. And we just want to thank Superintendent Carey and Kim for all their hard work, and we receive a lot of transparency. They take the audit very seriously. If we have any questions, they're very responsive, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim, thank you. Well, for two things. One, for going through this audit, but also just for making that clarification, because I could see someone at home
Yes.
that might have walked into the house and heard
Yeah.
that all of a sudden we'd be getting some phone calls and stuff. So it's, people hear what they want to hear. So, so thank you
Well,
for
and
that.
it's just the way that they have to present that.
Right.
It's a little confusing, and the details later in the report, so just making
And
sure
thank you
people
very
know.
much for that.
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda. This is nice. 2017 to 2018 school calendar.
And the calendar committee met, and they're presenting two calendars for the board's consideration. And then after the board has an opportunity to review those at our December meeting, then we'd be asking the board to approve one of them. The chief difference between the two calendars, we have the opportunity to have a consultant work with our district, Kelly Gallagher. And he's very popular, and so you have to schedule him in advance. And so he was available to work with our district on September 11th, 2017. And because of that, typically, if you look at our calendar, we start the year with 2 institute days, and then there's typically another institute day later in the fall. This year, because of the junior high being used as a polling place, that third institute day fell on August. So the discussion among the calendar committee, knowing that we needed to have an institute day on September 11th to work with Kelly Gallagher, they were kind of looking at what to do with the opening of the school year. And so the two proposals, that's where the difference comes in. Calendar A, we'd have more the traditional start with our district, in which we would have institute days on the Monday and Tuesday, and then we would start with a full day on the Wednesday of August 23rd. And then the other option was to start with an institute day on Monday the 21st, and then a SIP day on the 22nd, and then a full day on the 23rd. And the staff have indicated that their preference is calendar B. And you know, one of the reasons they do like the start on a Wednesday, if you remember, we've been starting on a Monday, and they noted that grades K through 3 really have a tough time with that transition that first full week. And so usually by Friday, there's some pretty tired young people. And so they were kind of looking at, you know, the calendar B offers a little bit even more of a transition, where it's a first day would be an early release, a half day for students, and then they'd get into their first full day on that Wednesday and then finish the week. But other than that, all the other, pretty much everything else is the same with the calendar in terms of the breaks.
So B is the one that the staff is looking for.
Staff had or would prefer, yes.
So for those of us that don't know, who is Kelly Gallagher?
He is an expert in reading and working with teachers on their instruction to improve reading, and especially working with at-risk readers. And so it would be a great opportunity. Some of our staff have already seen his presentation and worked with him, but this would be an opportunity for us to probably do a general session and then be able to work with various grade levels throughout the day.
Kevin? So the one starts us on a Wednesday, but ends us on the May 24th, and the other one's ending us on May 24th also, isn't it? Am I seeing that wrong?
Right.
So where are we picking up? Are we losing? We're losing a day. We're gaining a day. What are we doing?
In calendar B, the third institute day would be, if I can find it really quick.
So that's all it is. An institute day is moved to another part of the calendar.
Right,
Okay, that's
right.
fine.
It's moved
That's
to
fine.
another part of the calendar.
Okay.
So you still have 4 institute days. It's when the 4 days are spaced.
And do the, I know I looked at this before, but I'm sure people would be asking, are the spring breaks and the Christmas holidays the same?
They're the same.
For both of them?
Yes.
Okay. So, in case anyone's watching, that would be March.
And I don't know if this makes a difference, but in calendar A, it's opening with the 2 institute days, and then the third institute day is September 11th. In calendar B, I was able to locate it. We'd have 1 institute day on August 21st. The second one would be September 11th with Kelly Gallagher, and then the third one would be November 27th, which is the Monday after Thanksgiving. So it extends that Thanksgiving holiday a little bit longer for families. They'd be out that Wednesday, and then kids would return on the 28th.
Okay.
So it's a little bit longer
Okay.
break for them.
Okay.
For the start, on calendar B for the start, it's an institute day on Monday and a SIP day on Tuesday. Is that a full day off on Tuesday?
No, it would
It's a
be
half
like,
day?
depending upon the building, like an 11:15 release,
Okay.
somewhere in there.
And
Oh, so
then-
the students come to school?
Right, they would come for basically the
but they
morning.
only come for-
And then
okay.
they would have the afternoon off.
Okay, and then and then the 23rd is the Wednesday then, is that going to be a PLC day?
With the SIP day, the conversation was that if we had the SIP day on the 22nd, we would not have a PLC day on the 23rd.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
So are we voting on this tonight?
It would be an action item at the next meeting. It just gives the board an opportunity to review it and digest it. If they have any questions, they have that opportunity.
Okay.
I'm sorry, real quick, I just want to make sure I'm looking at the same thing. Did you say, Gary, that both of them were ending on May 24th?
That's what it seems, yeah.
Because I'm seeing the last day on calendar B is the 24th, but the last day on calendar A is the 23rd.
Oh, okay, maybe whatever.
Should be the same, shouldn't it?
I thought.
Okay.
What is that what this is? Option A, April 2nd. It says NS. Is that no school? Because that's after spring break.
Right.
Is that?
That's the Monday after Easter, I believe,
Oh, okay.
so.
Okay, and that's on both of them?
Yes.
I didn't print that out, so, okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll vote on that next time. Okay, the third item is the State of the District presentation by the superintendent.
Okay, this evening, we're going to present the information, the state of the district, to the board and to our community. At the end of October, the state report cards were released, and so then we can now share the information from the report cards with our community. This evening, we've had kind of a brief overview of the financials already, but again, we'll share the financials as reported on this state report card. We have some student information. We'll talk about it should be the class of 2015, some student data, and then we'll talk about our accomplishments and our work with our PLCs, and then our next steps. In terms of our finances, and again, Kim shares this information when she talks about the budget in the fall, and this is something that the board is very much aware of. But when you look at our revenues, we're very reliant on our local property owners, and so we're very appreciative of their support of our school district. Almost 85% of our revenue comes from our property taxes, and then we get an additional 2.5% from the state, and then 3.5% from the federal government. So as a district, we're very much reliant on our local property owners. In terms of the expenditures, not surprising, 76% of the budget goes to the education fund. And I always say that you can make an argument, though, that everything we do is related to educating our students. Transportation, obviously, we have to be able to get our students to our buildings, the capital projects, all the work that we're doing in our buildings. The operation and maintenance is how we maintain our buildings. And so pretty much everything that we spend goes towards educating our students. In terms of the demographic data, you can see the ethnicity and race breakdown of our schools. We're 63.7% white, approximately 6.2% black, and then 20% Hispanic. And our Hispanic population is growing, which then accounts for the strength of our ELL program and also our dual language program. In terms of comparing other demographic information to 2015, our ELL population is up slightly, 8.9%. IAPs is down slightly. Our low income has decreased from 41% to 33%. Our homeless population has increased. Parental involvement is always 100%. Our attendance has increased slightly. Our mobility rate is up slightly. Our chronic truants are down to less than 1%. Our dropout rate, we had no dropouts. And then our average class size is up a little bit, and our freshmen who are on track for college readiness has increased from 95.6% to 99%. Our class of 2015, every year, the students indicate what their plans are post-graduation. And you can see that 49% of our students indicate that they were going to attend a 4-year college or university, 39% a 2-year college, 7% enter the workforce, 4% attending a technical school, and the graduation rate was 94.4%. And I know Jack, when he talks to the board about the graduation rate, he always notes that because there are students that are entitled to services until their 22nd birthday, if you were to take some of those students out of the calculation, you would be close to 100% graduation rate. And the numbers are pretty much the same as they were last year in terms of what our students indicated they were going to do post-high school. Our ACT stayed approximately the same, 21.7 compared to last year. And then in terms of the Illinois 5 Essentials Survey, and pretty soon our community, our families will start to get emails from the high school and the junior high and Manning and Miller indicating that if they could complete the 5 Essentials Survey. And the 5 Essentials Surveys, all teachers in each of the buildings are surveyed, students grades 6 through 12 are surveyed, and then parents are surveyed. And based upon that information, the state then determines how well organized the school is or how ready they are for school improvement. And based upon that data, the junior high and the high school have been indicated as well organized for improvement, and Manning and Miller have been indicated that they're organized for improvement. So for all 4 buildings, that's an excellent indicator. In terms of some of the student data, and this is where, we've had Park. This last year was the 2nd year of Park, and we're still kind of working with Park. But basically, as a district, what we've been relying on is MAP, because that's been the consistent assessment. MAP also, we're able to measure student growth. Park is given 1 time during the year, but MAP we give 3 times during the year. And then the bottom table that is in the red, the green, and the yellow, those cut percentages, those are again based upon students being ready for ACT and being college readiness. And so ideally, when our students take the assessment, we want them hitting that 71% range, and that indicates that they're on target. And so we're able to take this data, we're able to see areas where we would need to improve, and we want to get those percentages up to where they need to be. And then this is the math, and again, this is an area that we're focusing on to make sure that, again, we get all of our areas into that green. Another piece of data that we look at is conditional growth, because it's not enough that students are performing well on MAP, but we also want to see our students growing throughout the year. And so you could have students who are indicating that they're on target for the grade level, but maybe didn't see the growth. And conditional growth is it's comparing students against similar students. And so you're comparing high achieving students against high achieving students. You're maybe comparing struggling students against struggling students. So you're comparing similar types of students. And so this is a piece of data that we just started to take a look at within our district. And the closer you are to 0, 0 is considered at target, and then anything above 0 is considered better than how other students, the growth in other districts, and then if you're below 0, then you're lagging behind there. And so, again, our goal is that when we look at this data again this year in the spring, we obviously want to see this all green, and that's for the reading. And then this shows the math, and again, this is an area that we're focused on this year to make sure that we get those students as close to 0 as we possibly can. In terms of our district accomplishments, again, we have the 94% graduation rate. Our junior high had implemented a service learning requirement last year, and 100% of the students met that requirement, which is a requirement for graduation. For the 3rd year in a row, our Early Childhood Center received the Gold Circle of Quality. Last year's group of students at the high school, we had 51 AP scholars, and we had 241 tests passed, which again are highs for our district. For the second year in a row, the high school has or will be ranked in Newsweek, the Washington Post, and U.S. News and World Reports ranking them as one of the top high schools in the country. And then this year, Miller Elementary by Chicago Magazine was ranked as the #3 elementary school in DuPage County. Some of the best practices that we've implemented in our district, we implemented a couple years ago the full-day kindergarten. We have the instructional coaches, which is an excellent resource. Each year we expand our summer school offerings and provide additional services for our students. We've embedded technology into our classrooms with growing our one-to-one program. We have our dual language program, which is up to the 3rd grade this year, and we're growing to the 4th grade. And of course, we've implemented our professional learning communities. Kind of our next steps, especially with our professional learning communities. Again, we're continuing that process of meeting with grade level teams and having that increased articulation between grade levels. The alignment of our curriculum with the Common Core standards. And now we have common formative and summative assessments aligned to the Common Core. And this ensures that the same material is being covered in classes, the same level of instruction is taking place. And then we're using our maps and fresh data then to drive our instruction. So we're looking at those common formative assessments, and teachers are making plans then how to work with their students. We've had several opportunities for MAP professional development with our staff. And again, we continue our focus on critical thinking, problem solving, communication skills. And then with our strategic plan, we're looking at goals that revolve around students reading at grade level. We know that our students need to be at a B or higher in Common Core Math or Algebra 1 to be successful on the PARC as well as ACT, and now it's going to be SAT. We're looking at our students who are taking and passing AP courses, and then we want students to work on post-secondary exploration. That includes college visits as well as exploring other professions beyond high school. So that kind of in a nutshell is what we have gleaned from the school report card as well as some of the things that we've done as a district. Any questions?
I have a couple. The change in low income, did that change our Title I funds at all?
It changed the amount that we received.
Yeah, we're similar. One of the things, I was at a presentation today, though, for the National School Lunch Program, and they're actually going to go back to having Medicaid directly certified students, so that number will probably increase shortly here again. So the state keeps changing things, so.
Okay, then I have, so when we look at, like, you have MAP reading percentiles in that. So again, remind me, because as a parent I should know this too, but the MAP is the one that the kids take, and then if they get a question correct, they keep going.
Right.
If they get it, they go back. So, again, when you look at like the spring percentile reading, I mean, it's really hard to really kind of get some understanding of what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So the MAP reading, is that both of these charts?
Right.
Okay.
Right. The one kind of shows you the trend over time.
Over time.
And so you can see how it will fluctuate. And then the bottom chart, though, is we were looking at a way to, because of the changes with the state assessment, we're looking for a way to have a way to predict how students would perform. In this case, it was ACT because that was the test. Right now, we're working on developing a correlation between performance on MAP and performance on PARC, and then also performance on MAP and performance on SAT. Mm-hmm. Because 3 through 8, they'll be taking PARC.
Right.
And then in high school, they'll be taking SAT.
Yeah. And again, everything changes every 10
Right.
minutes, so it is kind of hard to,
Right.
to,
So we won't have any ACT numbers to add to the chart next,
We'll still have students who elect to take ACT,
but
but we
right-
won't be
right now,
giving out.
everybody takes it?
I'd have to confirm if we gave it to every student last year.
Okay.
The year prior, we did, because that was required of the Prairie State. But with Park, ACT is no longer part of it. And so then, unless you provide that opportunity to students, it's similar to when probably we were in school, you took the test on a national
Yeah.
testing day.
but that might, so that's a good point, because then if not everybody takes it, the number might not,
Well, we won't have that
Correlate.
data continue over time like it has for so
Right.
many years, which is a kind of unfortunate in a way,
because then you.
switching over to
Yeah,
SAT.
because how would you know?
You have a new
if-
starting point then.
Right.
Yeah, because how would you know if kids either took it more serious or less serious if they didn't have to take it? You know what I mean?
Right.
If everyone has to take it, then it's correlation. Okay, so then this, when you look at the conditional growth in reading and math, so can you just explain that just a little bit more on just because I thought when I was looking at this originally, this is not the same thing as MAP. So this.
It's another piece of data you can get from MAP. So this is based upon our students' performance on MAP.
Okay.
And what it tells us is if the student's growth through an academic year is on pace for their peers of similar ability.
Their peers in the school, in the state, in the country?
In the country.
In the country, okay.
Because it's normed nationally, and as long as you give it during the testing windows, which we do. So again, it's taking a look at if you had somebody who's in the 90th percentile, it looks at their growth compared to other students who are in the 90th percentile. And if it's growing if that student grows at the same rate, then that's assigned a 0. If they grow at a faster rate or greater amount, then it's some number above 0, and if they grow less than their peers, then it's a negative. And so the goal is you want to see our students each grade level at least at 0. And so that's what we're focusing on now. So we're looking at that map data to see where kids are at, and then working with our instructional coaches, who then in turn are working with our classroom teachers to adjust those instructional practices. So, we think this is the first time we're really taking a look at this type of data from MAP, partly because, again, we're kind of looking at, okay, what can we hang our hats on, if the state assessment continues to change and there's different challenges there. And so MAP is one of the consistent things that we do. And so now we're starting to take a look at this data, because it's not enough for us to have students who perform, but we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students and they're all growing at the rate they should be.
Because I remember you had said before that with all the changes, I know that I think you had talked about that the teachers and the staff really still like MAP. So that, at least then we have some continuity.
Right.
So I know, and I really appreciate this information, because it does give us more data. Obviously, seeing red is something we don't want to see, but, and today's presentation is a snapshot of where we are. Can you come back to us in maybe a couple months and then maybe talk about what some of the specifics are? Now,
Sure.
I would guess that this might have had something to do with the whole restructuring of math. Is that, do you know?
That's a possibility.
Okay. So it would be good to just find out what some of the specifics are that would be, that are being implemented.
Sure.
For that. So that's all I have right now. Anyone else has anything?
Okay.
Is that it? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why is this not working tonight? Okay, the next item on the agenda is an action item, approval of authorization for treasurer to pay additional November 2016 bills.
All right, this is the same authorization that we do in months where we have one board meeting. Because we have one board meeting, we know there are additional bills that need to be paid, so this is authorizing those bills to be paid that are part of the budget. I do want to make you aware that we do have a Pepper construction bill to pay the contractors that was not on this bill list, so we will be paying that in the month of November. So that will be one of the things. It's, I think, around $150,000 roughly. So again, just so you're aware, that will be in that, one of those payment bills that's going to be paid.
And just to reiterate, they're still listed in the next month.
Right, they'll be
It's just
listed.
authorizing
and
you to make the
yes,
payment. Okay.
Yes, but I know Pepper would like their check this month, so.
There are less and less construction trucks over there.
Yes, it's, yeah, and it's getting small, those
Yes.
payments are getting smaller too,
Yes.
so.
Okay, any questions on that then? All right, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the authorization for the treasurer to pay additional November 2016 bills.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Mr. Armstrong,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Ambrose,
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, then the next item is a resolution to adopt the tentative 2016 tax levy.
Okay. What am I doing wrong? Okay, here we go. All right, good. This evening, we have the 2016 levy recommendations for you. And we'll start out first with reviewing the school district levy process. The first part of the process is to project our revenue and expenditures. And we also I meet with the York and Downers Grove Township assessors. We have a consortium of school district managers in DuPage County. And we get estimates of EAV and new value. And then we review those based on the budget and implications, how those revenue estimates would impact our budget. Then present the preliminary levy to the board, which we're doing this evening. And then, as a matter of practice, we publish a truth in taxation notice. We always ask for more than we think we're going to get, more than we calculate that we're going to be entitled to. And then we have the public levy hearing. And then we have to file the certificate of levy by the last Tuesday in December. So our levy recommendations, again, we always ask for a considerable amount more money than we know we're going to get, than we think we are. This protects us in two ways. If we have new growth that is beyond what the estimates are by the assessors, that allows us to access the revenue from that new growth, and we don't have any surprises. Typically, estimates from our assessors have been very good, but the last couple of years they were off on EAV and what that trend would be. So I just like to be ultra cautious so that we don't have any surprises. So recommending $19 million levy in the education fund, $2 million in special ed, and then O&M, $2.7 million. Overall, in the operating funds, $25.6 million. And then in our debt service fund, which we use to pay off the bonds that we issue, $1.2 million. So a total levy of $26.9 million. And then when we look at the levy summary, the levy is subject to the property tax extension limitation law, and that allows us to levy for 105% of the previous year's levy or the preceding year's CPI. So in this case, the CPI was 0.7%, and that's what our levy was going to be based on. And then overall, that levy that I'm presenting is an increase of 18.45% over last year's extension, and it's 19.61% in the cap funds, which sounds like a lot, but that, again, that protects us from unforeseen changes in EAV and new growth. And then we actually are anticipating that we're going to receive 1.06% overall and 1.16% in the capped funds. Again, this is how we levy each year. And so if you look at the history from 2009 through 2016, the figures in blue are what we ask for in the levy, and the figures in the red columns are what we actually receive. So you can see we ask for significantly more than what we're going to receive. And then I also wanted to give you a little bit of an update on the tax rate history, and in your board packet too, you have a comparison to other districts. But in the board memo, we've saw our tax rate decreased from 2002 to about 2008, and then from 2009 through 2014 it increased, and that is a result of the EAV decreases that we were seeing, all the negative EAVs. So last year our EAV did go up, so it caused our tax rate to go down, which is good news. And based on projections for this year, we're looking at a similar decrease in tax rate for this year as well, because we're anticipating about a 6% increase in EAV and about $2.2 million of new growth for this year. And then we also present a tax rate comparison to other districts. So the unit districts in the area, we look at Lisle, District Wheaton 200, Naperville 203, Indian Prairie 204, and Elmhurst 205. You can see we have the lowest total tax rate of those unit districts. And then we also do a comparison of our high school and elementary combos. Obviously, elementary district tax rates are usually pretty low, and then you have some high property wealth districts like Hinsdale, so their tax rates tend to be a little bit lower as well. But the combination of Downers Grove 99 and Darien 61 is higher than our tax rate. And then, so as a result of our levy request, we do have to do a truth and taxation notice, and that will be posted in the Liberty Suburban Chicago newspaper on Wednesday, November 30th. And then we'll have our public hearing at the Westmont Village Hall here, 31 West Quincy in Westmont, on Tuesday, December 13th at 7:00 p.m. Any questions? Okay.
Oh.
Thank you for always asking for more than what we're going to get.
Yeah, well, you know, we would hate to have a surprise.
No surprises.
Unless they're
Good
going to give it to us, yeah.
Surprise, but yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, superintendent's report?
Or first you have to do the
Oh, sorry.
resolution.
Sorry. The chair, this is the resolution to adopt. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the tentative 2016 tax levy as presented.
So moved?
Second.
And roll call, please.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Ambrose?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now the superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report, we're entering a busy time of the year. First, on Thursday this week, that's the 17th, the high school will have its annual Thanksgiving feast, and all the board members are invited if your schedule allows. Lunch will be served at approximately 11:30, and then again at 12:20. And Steve Cashman, our architect, I think the last 8 or 9 years, he has sponsored the luncheon, and he continues to do that for our district, so we appreciate that. So if you can join us, if you could let either Rima or myself know, so we can make sure that we reserve a space for you. On Saturday, November 26th is the Westmont Holidays Parade, and once again, the school district and school board will be participating in the parade. The parade will start at 5:00 p.m. at the Westmont Public Library. You probably need to be at the public library about 4:30 as they start lining up, and hopefully you and your family can join us. And again, if you could let Marie know if we can expect you. Communications, we have some good news to report. The Illinois Principal Association DuPage Region, they select an elementary, a middle school, and a high school principal of the year. And this year, they selected two of our principals. John Jonak is the middle school principal of the year, and Jack Balderman is the high school principal of the year. Honors very well deserved. And at a future board meeting, a representative from the Illinois Principal Association DuPage Region will be here to formally recognize John and Jack. So we're very proud of John and Jack for their accomplishments.
Can we get their autographs then that night, too?
And then just a quick update, we had on November 9th, we had our joint committee meeting. And so this is an opportunity for each of our subcommittees to meet. And our facility committee had an opportunity to tour the high school and also to tour Phase 3, which will be completed right before Thanksgiving. And the finance committee reviewed the district budget and began discussions about opportunities to reduce spending, as was reported today through the audit, that we did see a decrease in our, slight decrease in our fund balance. And so we just want to start that process of looking at opportunities so that we don't need to go down that path of cost containment that the district had a few years ago. The Strategic Plan Committee is refining the district goals and discussing metrics to monitor the progress. Our Public Relations Committee reviewed all the various communication tools that we have and then discussed how to better improve communication within the district. And then our Climate Committee reviewed the Illinois 5 Essential Survey. And then also our district has been involved in Rachel's Challenge, and it's been a number of years since we've had the formal assemblies with our students, and so they discussed reauthorizing Rachel's Challenge in the fall of 2017. That's all I have.
I heard somewhere they're going to make a movie out of that.
Oh, really?
Rachel and the whole Rachel's Challenge thing, so that might be interesting. Okay, is that it, Kevin? Mm-hmm. Okay, are there any board reports? I just want to remind our community that this coming weekend, the school board and superintendents and business managers are going down to Chicago to attend the Tri-Conference, and every year we go, and it's a great way, it's a great opportunity for us to continue our education. And it's really nice to see our district so well represented at this board conference. And at a future meeting, we will share out a number of the things that we have learned. And it's really nice to see the consistency in our district of attending these conferences. So we are very much looking forward to it. And Kevin, would you share with everybody what we're doing this year there?
Our district will be doing a presentation on bringing our vision to life, so talking about the process we went to see some of the improvements we've seen in our district. And presenting with me will be John Jonak, and Jack will should also be there.
And this is something that anyone in the state can come and can listen to, so it'll be, so thank you, that's a lot of work putting that together. So once again, showcasing our district in a statewide event, so we'll be very interested in seeing that happening, so. Okay, anything else? All right, are there any public comments? All right, future meetings and events. Holidays Parade, November 26th, starting at 5 o'clock, starting at the Westmont Public Library. Thanksgiving holiday, where there's no school, November 23rd, 24th, and 25th. The high school winter concert and student art exhibit, December 7th, 6 o'clock at the high school. The junior high band concert on December 8th, 7 o'clock, which will be at the high school. The winter choral concert for Miller Elementary is December 12th, 6 o'clock at Miller. And Manning's winter choral concert will be December 13th at 7 o'clock at Manning Elementary. And the next school board meeting, December 13th, 7 o'clock here at Westmont Village Hall. Are we voting after? There's
No.
nothing to vote on. So. Okay. First of all, let me just say happy Thanksgiving to everybody here, and hopefully everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family and football. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining, personnel issues, student discipline, security issues, and probable litigation.
So moved?
Second?
And roll call, please.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Ambrose?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Thank you.
And there will not be a vote after close.